sun blazed mercilessly over the sprawling desert, casting long, shimmering waves of heat across the endless dunes. Travelers and nomads often avoided this region at noon, but a small caravan of traders, led by a seasoned camel handler named Rafik, had been making their way across this unforgiving expanse. The camels, their humps heavy with precious goods, plodded steadily, leaving deep impressions in the golden sand. Rafik's eldest camel, Sultan, was a massive, proud animal, known for his endurance and calm nature.
Stay calm!
Desert, usually silent except for the whispering wind and occasional cry of a distant hawk, seemed almost alive today. A tension hung in the air, subtle yet unmistakable, as though the vast landscape itself was holding its breath. Rafik noticed Sultan twitch nervously, ears flicking backward, nostrils flaring. The camel let out a low rumble, a warning that only someone familiar with desert creatures could interpret. The sand beneath their feet began to shift strangely, forming small ripples that moved unnaturally. The traders whispered among themselves, unease creeping into their voices. Suddenly, a shadow stretched across the dunes, long, sinuous, and dark, moving with terrifying speed. Rafik's heart pounded as he realized what no one could have expected. A giant python, easily 30 feet long, emerged from beneath the sand, its scales glinting like obsidian in the sunlight. It coiled with frightening precision, muscles bulging, eyes locking onto Sultan with predatory focus. The snake struck with lightning speed, wrapping its enormous body around a camel before anyone could react. Sultan brayed in panic, struggling against the crushing coils, his hooves thrashing wildly, kicking up clouds of golden sand.
Get to your mounts
The traders
now.
shouted
Hurry,
and
quickly.
scrambled to their mounts, their voices drowned by the hissing, rumbling growl of the monstrous serpent. The desert, so often a symbol of quiet endurance, had transformed into a battleground of raw survival, where man, beast, and predator collided in a deadly dance. The python tightened its grip, constricting Sultan with terrifying precision. The camel's eyes bulged in fear, his breathing ragged as he thrashed against the unrelenting coils. Rafik leaped forward, trying to pry the snake's powerful body away with a long wooden pole, but the creature's strength was unlike anything he had ever encountered. The traders abandoned their goods, running in all directions, shouting for help. The desert wind carried their cries across the dunes, but the sound seemed almost useless against the sheer scale. The python tightened its grip, constricting Sultan with terrifying precision. The camel's eyes bulged in fear, his breathing ragged as he thrashed against the unrelenting coils. Rafik leaped forward, trying to pry the snake's powerful body away with a long wooden pole, but the creature's strength was unlike anything he had ever encountered. Sand sprayed everywhere as Sultan bucked violently, attempting to break free from the constrictor's grasp. The python hissed, a sound that resonated like a whip cracking across the open desert, and coiled tighter, crushing the camel with inhuman force. Rafik's mind raced. He knew he needed reinforcements immediately. From a distance, the faint hum of engines could be heard. A specially trained desert rescue team, alerted by local scouts, was on its way. Soldiers in lightweight desert combat gear, equipped with tranquilizer rifles and net launchers, raced across the dunes, their vehicles kicking up clouds of sand in their wake. Dust and sand whipped through the air as the team approached, eyes scanning for the snake's massive, sinuous form. The rescue commander, Lieutenant Farah, barked rapid instructions into a radio, coordinating the approach with surgical precision. The scene was a blur of sand, sunlight, and desperate motion, every moment fraught with the terrifying possibility that the camel might succumb before the team could reach him. The air shimmered with heat and tension, and the desert itself seemed to echo with the primal roar of predator and prey locked in mortal combat. Dust clouds billowed as the desert rescue vehicles approached, their engines screaming across the sand like mechanical beasts. Lieutenant Farah led the team, her eyes sharp behind mirrored goggles, scanning for the exact position of the giant python. Soldiers leaped off the vehicles, net launchers at the ready,
Positions!
while medics followed close behind, prepared to treat the camel the moment it was freed. The snake, sensing the approaching danger, hissed violently, its body coiling and recoiling with terrifying speed. Rafik, nearly exhausted from his futile attempts to pry the serpent off Sultan, waved frantically at the rescue team, guiding them toward the precise location. Farah signaled her squad, dividing the team into tactical units. Some were tasked with distracting the python, while others readied the tranquilizer darts. The sand shifted beneath the snake's massive coils, making it almost impossible to predict its next move. Sultan's struggles had weakened him, his legs wobbling under the crushing grip. But he still fought valiantly, driven by instinct and the will to survive. One soldier fired a dart, but the python reacted instantly, snapping its projectile midair, barely missing the shooter's face. The tension was unbearable, every second an agonizing test of nerves and precision. Dust, sweat, and adrenaline mingled as the desert echoed with the desperate sounds of survival. The camels brayed, the snakes' hisses, and the team shouted commands. Lieutenant Farah took a deep breath, knowing that this would require not just strength, but flawless coordination. With a nod to her team, she initiated the final plan to subdue the massive predator, each member moving with lethal efficiency, aware that one mistake could cost them Sultan's life. The rescue team executed their strategy with military precision. Soldiers flanked the python, shooting tranquilizer darts in rapid succession. Each dart struck, but the snake's immense size and adrenaline-fueled aggression made it almost impervious to the initial sedation. The desert wind whipped around them, carrying sand into eyes and mouths, creating a blinding haze. Rafiq grabbed a thick rope, attempting to loop around Sultan and pull him free, but the python's coils were relentless, squeezing with crushing force. Lieutenant Farah barked instructions, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. Medics prepared sedatives for the camel, fearing injury from prolonged constriction. The python suddenly lunged at one of the soldiers, jaws snapping wide, revealing fangs glistening with venom. The team barely dodged, rolling across the sand as the beast's body slammed into ground, shaking it with thunderous impact. The air was charged with tension. Every heartbeat seemed amplified, echoing across the desert like a drum of doom. Sultan, sensing the shift in momentum, bucked violently, managing to loosen one coil slightly. It was a tiny victory, but enough to ignite a glimmer of hope. Lieutenant Farah motioned for a coordinated push. The soldiers aimed to encircle the python, applying ropes and nets to restrict its movement. The snake hissed in defiance, but fatigue began to creep into its massive muscles. Every movement of the team was critical. One misstep could trigger the python to tighten its grip and crush Sultan instantly. The sun beat down mercilessly, reflecting off the sand and creating a mirage-like haze, but neither predator nor prey could afford distraction. Dust, sweat, and the smell of raw exertion filled the air as the confrontation reached its peak, a high-stakes struggle of life, death, and survival instincts. Slowly, the rescue team began to gain control. The python, now partially sedated, moved sluggishly, its massive body coiling less aggressively. Soldiers worked tirelessly, lassoing sections of its body and anchoring them to nearby rocks and vehicles. Rafiq, seizing the opportunity, yanked Sultan free from the loosening coils. The camel stumbled but regained footing, braying in relief and confusion. Lieutenant Farah signaled the final containment maneuver. With precise coordination, the team restrained the python's head using a reinforced net, immobilizing its striking range. Tranquilizer darts were administered directly into its neck muscles, gradually subduing the beast completely. The desert sun bore down on the exhausted rescuers, but the relief was palpable. Sultan was alive, and the python, though still dangerous, was under control. Medics rushed to the camel, checking for injuries and administering fluids. Rafiq knelt beside Sultan, whispering calming words to the trembling animal. The traders, who had initially fled in panic,
all clear,
cautiously approached, awe and gratitude written on their faces. Dust clouds settled, revealing the aftermath of chaos. A battlefield of footprints, disturbed sand, and the glistening scales of a subdued predator. The rescue team had turned the tide through courage, skill, and impeccable teamwork,
all clear,
proving that even in the harshest, most unforgiving environment, human determination could prevail against nature's fiercest threats. Every member of the team knew that they had not only saved an animal, but prevented a disaster that could have had catastrophic consequences for the local ecosystem and the desert caravan. With the python securely restrained, the team organized a safe transport operation using reinforced cages and specialized lifting equipment. They prepared to relocate the giant snake to a protected wildlife reserve far from human settlements. Sultan, still shaken, was guided back to the caravan, where he drank water eagerly and nuzzled Rafik in gratitude. The desert, which had moments before been a scene of terror, now seemed tranquil, bathed in the golden glow of late afternoon sunlight. Lieutenant Farah and her team inspected the equipment, ensuring that no loose ends remained that could risk the safety of either humans or animals. The traders, their voices finally calm,
Thank you.
expressed deep appreciation to the rescuers,
We are truly grateful.
promising to share the story of courage, strategy, and survival. Rafik reflected on the ordeal, realizing how fragile the line between life and death could be in the desert. Sultan, resilient and majestic, had survived against a predator of unimaginable size, reminding all present that instinct, courage, and the bond between human and animal could overcome even the deadliest challenges. The python, once a symbol of terror, now represented a story of conservation, courage, and the importance of coexistence in the wild. As the team prepared to depart, the desert seemed to exhale, a silent acknowledgement of the struggle that had unfolded in its vast, golden expanse. News of the daring rescue spread quickly across desert communities and social media platforms. Videos captured the heart-stopping moment the giant python attacked Sultan, followed by the heroic intervention of Lieutenant Farah and her elite rescue team. Scholars, wildlife enthusiasts, and local authorities hailed the operation as a perfect example of human skill meeting the unpredictable force of nature. Rafik became a local hero, his calm under pressure praised alongside the bravery of Sultan, whose survival instincts had been nothing short of extraordinary. The giant python, now relocated safely, was monitored by wildlife experts, ensuring that it would no longer pose a threat to travelers while still thriving in its natural habitat. The story inspired new protocols for desert wildlife emergencies, highlighting the importance of preparedness, rapid response, and teamwork. Every rescue member returned home physically exhausted but emotionally fulfilled, carrying the memory of a high-stakes battle that tested every ounce of their courage and expertise. In the vast, ever-changing desert, life had triumphed against danger, leaving a legacy of hope, resilience, and the enduring bond between humans and the creatures they strive to protect. Tales of Sultan and the giant python would be recounted for years, a reminder that even in the harshest conditions, bravery, cooperation, and respect for nature could turn disaster into a story of triumph.